first actual paid freelance gig was with TEDx. It basically is a signal to your recruiter saying that this person can consistently perform at this level. Language specificity is important for certain roles and certain companies. More than if you are able to solve a problem, what they're expecting is this person thinking in the right direction? 80% of you getting an offer is.
Hey everyone, so we have yet another amazing guest with us on our podcast, and here we have Anirudh Jaishankar, a software engineer at PayPal who has a lot of experience in the IT industry. And in this episode, he'll be sharing with us a lot of significant ideas on various fields, especially AI, and we are going to learn a lot from him today. So, hi Anirudh, how are you doing?
Hey Naveen, I'm great. How are you?
I'm fine, bro. Thank you for accepting the invite to this podcast. I'm really excited to have you here, and it really means a lot, bro.
I think I should be the one to thank you to spend your time with me this great afternoon. So let's have an amazing conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, sure,
I had an amazing conversation earlier with you on the Google Test as well. So
Yes.
I think this will be pretty insightful for a lot of people. So let's go.
Sure, definitely, bro. Okay, so let's start with the basic introduction about yourself. So, look, like, how did your journey get started?
All right, super. So I was in Tier 3 college in Chennai. So I have been in Chennai since I was born. And I started, I was in the CBSE, and then I got through to a college from the Alliance University Counseling, and I ended up at RMP College of Engineering and Technology. So from there on, it actually started. During my second year, I've had the opportunity to work with a couple of amazing people from TED. So during the 2019, I started my actual professional journey as a freelancer. And from there on, worked with a lot of startups. I worked with a couple of big names as well, Fortune 500 as well. So I think it's been a pretty exciting journey for me. So that is where all started. So during my second year, I was a little bit interested in understanding how to build websites, how all of these mobile apps are working, and I think it's just fascinating. So that curiosity is probably what drove me to the place where I. So that is just a quick background about me. Uh, I am currently working at PayPal as a software engineer too. I started working here during the Jan of 2022. It's almost a year now. So since I joined PayPal. So previous to that, I was working in a company called Presidio. Actually, Presidio was a bigger company which acquired another company called Coda Global. So I started my actual professional journey with Coda Global. Before that, I was a freelancer. And from there on, it moved to Presidio, and now I'm like. So that's a little bit about the professional side of things. I also like to generally teach people, so I generally like the concept of teaching. So I wanted to really do a mentorship, teach people a little bit more about tech, especially pre-COVID times. I think a lot of people were interested, but they did not have good avenues to go and learn things. So that is where I started. I started with my own college. I just took a couple of people. I met with them. And from there on, in group. So I think that has been also a pretty exciting journey for me. So that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, actually, during the Google Day First too, you were one of the few people who asked a lot of questions to the speakers over there. It was very specific, and they were very interested to answer as well. So that's when I thought that okay, so you'll have some very great ideas about a lot of topics. So I've prepared a lot of questions for you. So the first thing I want to ask, since you mentioned that you worked as a freelancer earlier, like what made you shift your career from freelancing to become a software engineer and work at a company?
Right. That's actually a great question. So freelance has its ups and downs. Uh, so when I started out, I was like very new to the entire world of tech as well as freelancing. So I was just like sort of understanding what the roots are and what are the basics and all that. So my first actual paid freelance gig was with TEDx. So TEDx was happening in Chennai during the 2019, and I worked with that team. So that was my actual paid gig. So before that, I used to work for free to learn the ropes, get to network with people, all that. So that does take a little bit of time to understand who people are, what they expect, and what can I deliver to them that I can, monetize. So,
Mhm.
and the concept of moving from a freelance to non-freelance, that is, paid 9 to 5, is
Mhm.
basically, if you think about it, two things. First one is I was not really good at sales, right? So, after being a timid kid in college, right, it becomes difficult to sell yourself because when you become a
Yep.
freelancer, one thing that you have to do is go there and sell yourself, sell your services and all that. So even though I did find multiple avenues, I was not like great at like public speaking or talking to a client
Mhm.
one on one all that. So it was a little scary, and but it definitely helped me learn a lot of things. I found a lot of people who helped me with a lot of things, so it was just easy for me to pick up from there on. Yeah, so you could basically say one is I couldn't, really put myself out there properly because I was just a college student, and second reason being stability, right? So that was a time when I wanted a little bit more stability than something of freelance, because that is another problem with freelance, which is you do not know when the project is coming in, you do not know when the money is going to roll, all that is there. So, but again, good stuff is there. You are the boss of your own time. You get to pick and choose what you want to work in. I because of that, I worked with a lot of interesting people, interesting clients, interesting projects. So all of that was really good. But of course, this is more of a stable lifestyle. So
Okay, that's great. That's great actually. So so since you now joined PayPal as a software engineer, you're now SDE-2, right?
yes,
So it must have definitely been a hard journey to get into PayPal, and especially the role of SDE-2. You would have a lot of interview rounds, and a lot of people seriously ask me that if they want to get into PayPal in Chennai or Amazon or all of the man companies, they ask me what are the best practices that they can do, or what are the um, various tricks or techniques that they can practice before the interviews to actually crack them, because it's not like it's very the percentage of people getting percentage of people cracking those interviews are very less, and you are one of the few people who did it. So obviously, you'll have some great insights on that. So, what would you suggest to a new person who wants to get into PayPal? So, what would your advice to them be?
right. So PayPal has always been like a place that I've dreamt of working, right? Mainly because I had been to this office a little earlier for a convention, and I absolutely love the way that they work. Love the way that they interacted with the community. They do a lot of CSR activities as well. So I really like, apart from being being a standard, being a pay wise difference, being market leader. Apart from that, I really like the culture more than anything. So, since college days, I've always wanted to do this, but on campus they did not come. But I did try it out during as a fresher, but did not work out right. So then I went out to work with another company, which is also really good, which is Skoda, and that's the account. They also have an amazing culture. So, of course, what I would say is my pre-tenure, that is, I used to work at Presidio for almost 4 years. I think in those 4 years, especially the startup, so it was a startup when I started working for it before it got acquired. So that kind of startup environment, the nourishment that I got from my mentors, seniors, all that was definitely the reason why I could actually crack PayPal, right? So, of course, one major outlook is to want to get into a place. So that is motivation enough to get you started, right? Of course, anybody can just come up and tell you, hey, do this, it'll be easy. But to actually have the motivation to get up and say, "Hey, this is where I want to be," and evaluating again and again where I'm going to be. That is something that you will have to do, right? And I tell you one secret at the end of this. The reason why I got into paper, that is a thing that I want to mention to everybody who's watching this. I think that is something that is really overlooked, but we'll talk about it. Okay. So
Yeah.
what happened was, uh, I applied to PayPal during. So I'll talk about the entire journey, like how it started, like what I was
Sure.
looking for, right? So
Yeah.
in my current organization, I had at that point been working for around 3.5 to 4 years, including my internship time, and it became pretty monotonous in terms of learning. So the scope to learn more or to implement more, look at a wider picture, became more narrower. That is, I was working almost as a tech lead. I was leading a team of 6 people, at like around in different technologies. But beyond that, there was no scope for it, and it became more of a management kind of role, which I was not at that point looking forward to. Because my I was I mean I was in my earlier stages of my career. I wanted to have a good experience in terms of technical knowledge, right? And also expand my domain of knowledge. So these were like primary motivators for me to actually move on from that current company, but it was a very, very good company. So for anybody who's starting out, right? So I would definitely recommend that place. So of course, it's a brilliant place to work with. So from there on, I started applying for a ton of companies there. I got offered from 6 companies there after that. So I got from 3 startups to one fund. I got one offer from Amazon Music and one from PayPal, and then another offer from another mid-tier company. I'm not really, I don't remember the name. I think it's been processed. So uh, and the reason or how I did it was mainly because I decided I want to see myself in a different place after 6 months or 8 months. Because if you do not imagine yourself, you do not manifest yourself being someplace else, you're not going to move. And that motivation alone does not get you there. Also, you have to get into a consistent habit of doing it every single day, be it 10 minutes, be it half an hour, whatever, right? Just 10 minutes of 1% better every day. That is a mindset that I had. Think about it. You improve 1% every day. At the end of 365 days, you are 365% better, right? And just 1% does not seem like a lot to you every day, right? Imagine this. You imagine you want to, become the best programmer in JavaScript, and let us say you learn one concept every day. That's 365 concepts a day, right? And probably JavaScript does not have that much. This is like giving you a rough number. But
Yeah.
what it does is puts you in a zone where you're improving each and every day, right? And that is exactly where it all started. So I when I started out, I had no clue how to prepare for something new, because that was like my first career shift that I was trying that I was going. So from I had to start everything from scratch, but the basics is pretty simple, right? So I don't like saying this, but 90% of the companies out there are expecting DSA. That is a baseline given for any software engineer tech job that you're trying to get, right? It's like this. It's like a virtual handshake with the recruiter saying, "Hey, I know what you're asking. I have what you need. I am experienced in this. I can think critically within the given time to get stuff done quick." So that is the basis of it. The grind that you're doing, be it on lead for, be it on weeks to week or whatever, right? It basically is a signal to your recruiter saying that this person can consistently perform at this level, right? So that is the reason why they test the DSA. Of course,
Okay.
like very rarely I have in my professional career, almost 5 years, right? I've ever used an app now or LinkedIn. or any of that, right?
Correct.
Uh,
Yeah.
so it does not make sense. So that is what I asked a lot of people, a lot of my recruiters as well. Why do you question me in DSA work? It's not something that we're probably not going to do, right? There are some certain practical applications like you might use a stack or a heap from time to time, but in the very rare case would you ever do that, right? There are a lot more different aspects to software development as well. But coming back to the PayPal journey, right? So how it all began is I was just applying to companies and I I was using this particular service called Insta Hire, right? I'll probably send you a link of this as well. So a lot of tech recruiters today are actually using InstaHire. I'm not really sure why, but I do see a lot of good companies coming over there. So if you are somebody who is looking for job in be it Chennai, mostly Bangalore, in the Bangalore space, uh, try out InstaHire. It's absolutely free for you guys, and it'll be pretty good. Right. So I applied it InstaHire, and also I applied through the Forward portal. So one another tip that I would give you is every company has a career portal. Even before the job listing comes to LinkedIn, it comes to their career portal, right? So have a habit of like take a list of companies that let us say you want to move, right? Take a list of companies that you actually want to get into. Pick out all of their career states. Keep checking every 1 week. Every 1 week, I'm pretty sure you like set a filter. In the page itself, you'll be able to set a filter, bookmark those pages, click on that every Monday or repeatedly every week, right? What you would notice is, like even if it is 2 days, just 2 days, right? Nobody generally checks the career portal of the company websites. Very rarely people do that because it's very easy to apply on LinkedIn, right? So what I found out is that before a job goes public on LinkedIn, it actually like 1 or 2 weeks earlier, it actually goes in their career portal, right? So what you get is you get ahead of probably thousands of people who are coming from LinkedIn. Right? If you apply it through LinkedIn, probably you're competing with say 5,000, 6,000 people. But if you're applying directly to the career portal, probably 200, 300 people. That is a much better chance for you. And your resume gets screened much earlier than other people. Right? So this is one thing that actually worked out for me, especially for PayPal as well as a couple of other companies as well. All right, so this was all very good. Do check it out. So put it on the bookmark and check out regularly, or set up like automated email like zapping or something like that, which does it for you. So I was applying for multiple companies, and I honestly did not expect a call back from PayPal. So the role that I applied for was pure Java, and at that point I had worked with Java, but I did not have like extensive experience in Java. My experience was all tied to C#, Azure, and the Microsoft stack, right? Since I was like tied up with this Microsoft stack, the problem was there is a very niche market for it. There is a market for it, but it's a very niche market. Everybody wants, either Java or JavaScript, all that, but I did not have any experience like that, right? So it was actually quite difficult to get an interview because most of the time I would clear 2 interviews and then they would look at my resume and they'd like, hey, you don't have a Java background. We cannot go further. It's like a big moral fit, right?
But usually companies don't really prefer they don't really specify the languages, right? They usually look for the generic skills and how fast you can learn things. But is that really necessary, the language to PayPal as a restriction?
So this is true for the one that I mentioned, right? Language specificity is important for certain roles and certain companies. Like for example, startups, right? They expect you to have certain expertise because they cannot really spend on upskilling you.
Correct.
But big companies, as you mentioned, right, like PayPal, Amazon, they really do not, they are generally language agnostic. So most of the interviews that I got, right, was mainly around the startup space. I was around the big tech space than the startup space. But again, like there was a market which said, hey, it's fine. What we want is, I don't know, any language is fine. Just get the job. So most of them do look at it that way. But when you don't have any experience and you're applying for an experienced person, that might be a problem. That might a little bit be a problem, right?
Okay.
So that is one thing that I noticed with a couple of interviews. Like once I had cleared like 2 or 3 rounds, they looked at the resume and they said, "We really want somebody with the Java background, so we cannot proceed further." Right? So of course, this was happening only in the startup phase, not in the big tech space. In the big tech space, it was totally different. Because like there'll be 6 to 7 rounds. Okay, you will be they'll say, hey, for this role, we'll give you 6 or 7 rounds. I'm like, why do you need 7 rounds here? It's absolutely not necessary.
So, all those 7 rounds, will it be very similar rounds or similar DSA system design kind of rounds, or there will be some various things?
Yeah. So, what happens is with PayPal alone. So, I'll give you the journey of PayPal, but I think there's common across industry. Okay. So, the first how it happens is you apply. If your resume goes through ATS, so there is this thing called ATS system which scans your resume, checks if the JD and your skill set match through the resume matches. Then it will say, hey, this person is a good candidate. It gives you a score. It's called a ATS resume score. And if it is like say 80 or 90, there is some threshold. If it is above that, it will put your resume on top of others. So based on that score, your resume is like stacked, right?
Okay.
And what happens is once your resume goes through the ATS, they will send you an automated test link. They'll say this is a test link in HackerRank or somewhere like that. They'll say there are a couple of questions in this. Solve it. If you're able to get through certain questions, let us say 4 questions or 5 questions, get through 3 or 4 questions, we will talk about the next right? So for PayPal, they send me 3 questions, 2 easy questions, 2 lead code easy questions, and 1 medium question for the first round. And through HackerRank they sent me, and the time was 1.5 hours. It was around 70 to 75 minutes, approximately 1.5 hours. And I got through all the questions. So after that, what happens is you have a telephonic interview. So generally, a telephonic interview is an online Zoom meet interview or something like that. It can go on at around 45 to 1 hour, right? The recruiter, the person who's HR who's connecting with you, he will say, the next step was this, you have this 3 rounds. So for me, after the first round, I had, he told me I have 5 more rounds. There'll be, and they'll also tell you which team you are interviewing from, right? So I was, at that point, I applied for 3 roles. So they said, since you have applied for 3 roles, we put in the common queue, and based on your resume performance, based on the interview performance, the manager will come and pick out whatever is good, right? So what happened was the next round was purely DSA. They asked me, there was a direct person who was currently working at PayPal. He was a SDE-2 as well at that time. So he asked me questions around the data structures. Like generally how it goes is, in big tech, they generally expect you to build the data structure from ground up, right? And then they give you a question based off of that. Like for example, during my second round, they asked me to build a doubling list through Java, and I was practicing through Java and I was applying through Java, so they asked me to do it in Java. So they asked me doubling linked list, and they asked me to build it from scratch, right? And they said they gave me a question, lead code medium question for a doubling linked list. So you have to build it, and then you have to use it to solve that problem. So that is how it generates.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So you have to, let us say you have they give you they say build a binary tree to do like a mirror or something like that. They will say do not use the binary tree that is already existing. Create your own data structure with the primitive data structures and then use that to solve this problem. And then one thing to note here is that they will expect you to talk through the process. So here is what you would do when you get into the interview and you're given a question. Let us say something like binary tree, right? You talk about what is a binary tree, what are the properties of a binary tree, and then you say, I'm gonna use this to build this binary tree, and then you do you talk to them, you tell them, hey, these are the common functionalities of a binary tree. I'm gonna write these functions within the class. Is this okay, or do you need me to add more? Right? Certain cases they might be like, okay, how you gonna build this particular functionality, right? Like for example, say searching through a binary tree, or let us say adding an element to a balanced binary tree, right? So they'll be like, what is algorithm that you're going to use? What is the runtime of it? How do you optimize this? So questions will be there. After you've done that, they'll be like, okay, now that you've built the binary tree, write an algorithm to probably, have a symmetric view of the binary tree, or, do a, pre-order, post-order, on that, right? In order. So all these servers will do that. It could be something like that. So for me, during the second round, it was doubly linked list. They asked me pure DSA for the second and third round. In the second round, they asked me doubly linked list and a question along with the doubly linked list. The third round, it was binary tree, balanced binary tree, and they asked me a question along with it. The fourth and fifth round, there was generally a higher. They call it like sort of like a bar raiser round. So it is like you're good enough for this, but we want to push you to see how much you can do, right? So they asked me a question, they asked me a lead code medium question. It was, I don't remember the exact question, but it was something like, imagine you have vertical bars, right? And then let us say there is some rainwater is collected. What would be like the total amount of water that is collected? Right? Something like that. Okay. So that is one question that they asked. And after that, they started questioning me around coding practices, like solid principles, what is dry, what is skills, how do you implement all of this, what is a builder pattern, what is an observer pattern, what is a singleton, all of this. So the third round and fourth, the third round and fourth round is focused more around as a programmer, as a tech person, how sound are you with all of these concepts? With respect to code, how good are you? How hands-on are you? Right? So, and along with this, there will also be a system design. So, during my final divisions, once I reached the fifth interview after like 4 rounds, what happened was what happens is your resume goes into a pile of resumes. Now, any team manager who has an opening for this particular role will pick out your resume and then call you for an interview. Most likely, this will be very technically. That is, if they expect Java, if they expect Go, or if it is like language specific or technology specific, that is where the question will be. Otherwise, they will ask you system design questions. For me, they asked me. I told them I'm from a C# background, I'm not from Java background. They asked me a question about URL shorteners. So, like, given a big URL, how do you like shorten it, and how do you distribute that to the public? So that is one system design question that they asked me. There generally will be a high design level coding question. So like, okay, you have said this. These are the smaller functionalities or features that we want to focus for this interview. You get down into this and just implement these features, right? But make sure that you're very vocal throughout the interview, because more than if you are able to solve a problem, what they're expecting is this person thinking in the right direction? In case you are not thinking in the right direction, they will say, hey, you know what? Think along this direction. They will give you a hint, right? If you are in the wrong direction, imagine they are asking a question and you're not able to solve it, right? Don't panic. It's all right, because not everybody comes there with 100% prepared. Like, you cannot really know every single concept. Correct. There is nothing wrong with not knowing something, but a genuine attempt has to be made, and they just want to check if you are making the genuine attempt. with the proper
Mhm.
guidance, right? With guidance, are able to think in the direction that they expect you, right? So that is the
Okay.
expectation. So it's completely all right if if you're not seeing that problem before, and you're like, I don't know how to solve that problem. That's 100% fine. Just let the recruiter know, hey, I've not seen this problem before, but if I were to build this from scratch, here's how I would approach this. Right?
Mhm.
I want to take a very small subsection of the feature that you asked me. I want to start building it. I want to start building components around it, and then we'll see where it goes. Right? At every point, you
Okay.
tell this is what I'm going to build. This is what it's going to do, and this is how I'm going to do. If they feel like this is not something, try it out this way. They might give you a direction. So at that point, you'll be like, okay, let me think as try out this direction. Okay, so that basically is the that's how it
Mm.
goes, and that is the expectation that people have. So during my fifth interview, I mean, at that point, I have not like done very intensively system design. So I started to panic in the interview. So I was
Mhm.
like, what- I was just stammering. I couldn't really answer any questions. I was just silent through the thing. So he's like, take 5 minutes, take a deep breath. It's okay. Not every question you would have seen. So it's completely alright if you don't know. Just tell me as a casual conversation you have. Imagine you were to solve this interesting problem, right? How would you solve it? Is what he said. And I was like, okay, let
Mhm.
me just give it a fair shot. And I gave it a fair shot, and he was like, okay. Then we started diving a little deep into the direction, and you gain confidence that is what. So that was my fifth interview. And the sixth interview is definitely with the senior manager. He's generally there to check how culturally fit you are, right?
Mhm.
So in the sense, like, imagine what is the culture like in the team? Like, would it be youngsters? Would it be like somebody who's laid back? What are the kind of opportunities that we're looking for in 5 years down the line? Where do you see yourself? Questions like that will be there, and who's like your favorite leader in the current tech space? What are some events that you're interested in? What are your hobbies? So this is one question that I want to give you a hint about. Okay, so when they say what are your hobbies, right? Uh, Generally have 2 to 3 hobbies, and let one or two be related to the tech field. Like for example, let us
Mhm.
say uh, my hobby is writing. I like writing news stories and all that. I've also done some freelance from time to time. I also write tech articles. What it
Mhm.
tells is you might also be a good person in terms of writing a technical article tomorrow for the company, right? So
Okay.
you're subtly hinting to the manager that you're also somebody who can write articles, because a lot of companies, right? They want people who are working to actually write good articles, right? And this is something that some managers might just look out for, right? It's an added bonus. If you think about it, this person is good, but when there are a couple of people who are around the same lines, this person also has the skill. So,
Okay.
it makes more sense for me to go with this person, right?
Correct.
So, when you have hobbies, have like 3 to 4 hobbies, two outside of work, and two, I mean, all of them outside of work, but some things that are related to tech. Like you could even say something like, I really love Apple. My hobby is to look at how they design stuff at Apple, how they market stuff. I think it's brilliant. I generally follow their design and stuff like that, right? So, like for
Mhm.
example, it's basically a polished way of saying I like to use Instagram in my free time. But instead of saying
Okay.
Instagram, you say I
uh,
follow marketing trends of Apple and big tech companies.
okay.
That's it.
Okay. Okay. Correct.
You understand it?
I
It's
understand.
basically like
Yeah.
that. So this is how generally it goes. Particularly my journey, what happened was first I attended 5 interviews. I actually did not get selected. What happened was the recruiter called me. They said, okay, the manager is not generally satisfied with how you did. So what we are going to do is we're going to put your resume on the file. Uh, Once we have like a good enough opening for you, we will contact back, right? Because
Mhm.
at that point you have completed 5 tech interviews, which is like they have done a particular screening. They have spent the time, their resources, right? You are pretty good, but for this particular role, it does not make sense. So
Mhm.
later on, then I got another set of interviews, another 2 interviews with a different manager, different same manager, and that is how I got it. So if you face the rejection, do not feel bad, because that is the part of what makes you human, right? We all fail, and the point there is to understand why you fail. There is nothing wrong in asking, hey, I understand that this is not satisfactory. Can you give me some constructive feedback around it? Everybody, generally, most of the managers will be happy to give you some feedback around it. Connecting with them, continue connecting with them on LinkedIn after your interview is done. Keep in touch with them from time to time. Hey, what is your team do? Be interested in what they're doing, what they're trying to achieve. And at some point, you might just be a good fit. You never know, right? So it is generally good to have a good relationship with people who say no to you, because that just means that you can always go back to them. Because if they say yes, the transaction is done and you cannot continue the conversation there on
Correct.
But somebody says no, you can say, okay, it did not work back then, but now I've got new skills. Do you need these skills? Right.
Okay.
So generally have a good connect with these people. They'll be more than happy to connect, keep in touch with you once you make a impression on them, or once you, show that you're pretty good. So that is what happened. So I got rejected. There was a 6 months break. I did not get any calls or anything like that. After 6 months, I got a call saying that one of the managers is interested. Are you again interested in? By that time, I also had like 2 offers in hand, and I was in the middle of the interview with Amazon. So I told them that I only have 2 offers and all that. I told them so generally when you tell them you have an offer, they first ask you what is the offer, right? So you just have to give them a number. Don't give them an exact number. So this is another tip for you. When a recruiter asks what your offer, don't give a number. Say a range. Say from this point to the, so my exact offer is not out yet, but the range that we spoke about is from this to this, right? You generally say that I got a verbal offer. They said the range is between this to this, but we are yet to confirm all the details, right? So the reason why I would say that is because when they give you a first offer, I would not say generally they would lowball you, but you do not know if you're lowballed, correct? You do not know if you're getting the lower range of the salary, right? So you generally give them a range. They will give you a number. You can probably check out what is the average salary in some places like Glassdoor, Blind, there is Levels FYI, all that. So you can check what is the salary they're offering there, and Ambition Box. So check in all of these places, what is the salary, and then tell them, hey, this is a salary range that is out there. And if they give you an offer above that, that is well and good. If they give anything below that, you can say, I got an offer from the other company for this this salary range, I mean this salary. So you can negotiate. So it gives you a good room to negotiate later. So that is probably one another advice that I would take. Okay. So this is how my interview went, and then the recruiter clicked, and the team was amazing. Team was so like that is where it went. And I told you that there is a secret that generally not a lot of people are talking about, right? How do you crack an offer? That is one secret. So the secret is basically luck. I know not a lot of people will tell you, but it's basically luck. 80% of you getting an offer is luck. And the reason why I'm telling you it's luck is because you have the skills for it. But imagine this. You're going through 5 interviews. You have 1 hour with a person, right? You do not know this person at all. He's a complete stranger. You do not have any clue what this person is going to ask, what he's expecting from you, and how this day has went. Imagine he has a bad day. Your interview is done. Correct. How much ever good you are, you're done. You're not ready. Right? So you have to do this 5 times. Not say 1 or 2 times.
Not just once, yeah.
5 times. So think about the amount of luck you need to have such that 5 continuous times you are able to impress 5 different people, where you have no clue what they're going to ask, what their expertise is, what their expectation is, and how you would even match it to them. Right?
Correct.
So that is the actual challenge of it. So not a lot of people will actually talk about this, but it's definitely luck. There is 80% luck. But even though there is a lot of unknown variables, you can actually turn this luck to your favor. It's possible. So how you do that is, number one, through the way that you communicate, right? So you understand so you put yourself in the recruiter's position. If you are the recruiter, you wanted the best for your team. How would you do it? Right?
Correct.
Approach every interview with this mindset. You know exactly what the other person is expecting out of it.
Yes, correct.
Right? So it becomes much easier to understand what this person expects and how to answer his questions.
Yeah.
At any point, you are like, hey, I don't understand the question. If you ask him, hey, I don't understand this question, can I explain it? He's still going to say the same thing. Instead, if you say, what is your expectation out of this question? If that is the question they are asking for, he can be more precise as to what he's testing you for. And you can exhibit that skill much easier.
Correct.
Right? So that worked out for me in a couple of Amazon interviews, actually. So I did not understand the question. So I said, hey, what is your expectation around this question? I understand you want a solution, but what is your line of thinking, or why do you want to arrive at this solution? So that gives me so he told me, what I'm looking for in this question is not just a solution. I want to see how you're doing in terms of test cases, how you're critically thinking around it, your code quality, what is the best practices that you have. So all of these things that do not come out from the initial question, you get from this question. Because he never told me, hey, he'll probably ask some question like, write a program to sort a linked list. Okay. In that question, nowhere is mentioning, I want to see your coding ability, or I want to see your best practices. I want to see these patterns. He's not saying any of that. He's just saying solve this problem. And there are n billion ways to solve this problem, right? So what you're trying to understand is, what is this person expecting out of me? So that is how you change the luck factor favorable to you.
Okay.
But
the way you ask questions actually determines that. Correct.
Exactly. So ask questions and change the way that you ask questions. Look at it from the perspective of a recruiter, right?
Correct.
And the third thing that you would do is genuinely be interested in the other person who's having a conversation, right? At the end of the last 5 minutes, he's gonna say, do you have any questions? Most of us, what we say is, I don't have any questions, I'm good.
Yeah.
We have no idea about what is happening behind the doors of that company, right? This is the best place to understand if you would be apart from the fact that they are assessing you, you're also assessing if the company is good. Which is fine, right? So one insight that happened, or one story that happened to me was, I was interviewing with this startup company, right? I asked him, so the interview was over. He said, the next interview will be scheduled and all that. So after that, he said, do you have any questions? So one question that I asked is, what does your work day look like? Generally, when you after every month, or after a weekend on Mondays, what do you look forward to the most? Okay, what this question does is, it gives an insight into what is the interesting problem that this team is solving, or what this company is doing. Right? You can see if this is a direction that you want to go in.
Okay.
Right? What happened was, after I asked this question, he spoke about this logistics. So he spoke about this one problem that they're trying to solve. In the ocean, right, there are no towers. Okay, all of it works through peer-to-peer ship connection networks.
Okay.
So here, basically, when you pass information, when you want to pass information from the land to sea, what you do is, you give the information to a ship that is going into the sea. When it goes, when the ship goes near to other ships, it basically passes that information to others. So that is how it passes, right? Also, you have to make sure that this information is relevant. So what they do is they add
Correct.
the expiry date to this information.
Okay.
So this is pretty interesting because we would have never thought, because we, in today's world, everybody has a smartphone. We just like, we figure out
Correct.
Google and all that. But in C, you cannot do that because only satellites can reach there,
Satellite connections. Yeah.
and that only happens in certain places. It does not happen everywhere in the sea, right?
Correct.
So I was very fascinated by this problem. They were basically doing something like a peer-to-peer direction. Like if you have used uTorrent or any torrent, right, to download, basically that technology.
It is pay to wear. Yeah, exactly. Correct.
Correct. So they're using that tech. So they were really good. And then there was another interview with another company. And I asked this question. After that, I decided I don't want to join that company. Okay. So what happened was, after the interview was over, I asked him, what does your day-to-day look like? And during the week, what is your most exciting day of the week? I asked him. So he was like, this is how my day-to-day goes. Morning, meeting, then work, and then we connect with our customers and all that. The most exciting day for us is the Saturday. I was like, wait, are you guys working on Saturdays? And he's like, yeah, this is the kind of environment where you generally work on a Saturday. So it was so they basically do banking stuff, and generally clearance, transaction clearance happens during the Saturdays. So generally what happens is, during the week they do development, and on Saturdays they basically support the development. I was like, hey, I have other stuff outside. First, I mean, I was mentoring people back then. So like I have a ton of things going on during my weekend, so I really cannot make it. So that is when I decided this company is probably not the culturally correct company, right? See, there is nothing wrong in Saturday. So if you have the bandwidth for it, you can definitely go for it. But back then, since I was doing a lot of mentoring, I was working with a lot of NGOs and all that, I was not able to dedicate my Saturday to work. So it's like, this does not work out. So, these questions, last 5 minutes questions like these, spark insightful conversations for you. Right?
Correct.
So, very nuanced conversations happens within the 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
So definitely do not leave out this last 5 minutes when you're going to say, do you have any questions?
Correct.
Right?
Yeah,
that is what thing that I want to give you guys.
Okay, that's actually a lot of very great strategies, to be honest. I actually had a lot of sub questions after that. You actually answered all of those. There are like 4 or 5 questions listed over here. I'm just seeing my screen. All those questions were answered already. Right. So I was just about to ask you this. So that this DSA thing, you mentioned that you are not happy with the idea that one should do DSA to get into to get into a company. So because obviously the work you do totally is different from the problems that you're solving. So since it was necessary for people in colleges to do all the DSA and stuff, should they really focus more on the DSA and all those technicals? I mean, the DSA, system design, etc. Or instead they need to focus on building applications or learning new technologies, or be more curious about that. So which should they focus? I mean, the basic question is should it be DSA or Dev, or should it be a combined approach among those?
So the answer is, I'm going to give you an answer and you're not going to like it. It does. It depends.
Okay.
I know it does not give you a lot of, perspective, but I'll tell you why I'm saying it depends. Okay. So as a person, when I started my journey, right, I was in college. I was actually more curious about how things are working in the, right? For example, I wanted to understand how the router works, or Wi-Fi router that we use in the house, right? There was this game that I used to play called NFS 2005 most of it. I think a lot of people know about it. It's on many years. But I was not able to play with friends. So what I did was, they had one application, and in that application, you open it up, you do something called port forwarding. After you do that, people can join into your game that you post. Okay. So that is when it actually started fast, and I did that. And I was like, wait, how does this work? So basically, port forwarding is you're opening up your router and the modem to the internet. You're saying anybody can actually come in and connect it. All right. This is generally closed off because imagine some random guy is going to some random hacker is there. He wants to get all the personal information that you are going through, right, in their mobile phones.
Correct.
So how does this happen is in a public network, everybody has access to it. But in your home routers are automatically secure by default. All right.
Yeah.
So they use something called WP2 protocol. All right. So generally none of the random people can actually join the network, or they can even snoop the network. Right. What happens is you need a password to even join the network or be a part of the network. So when you do port forwarding, it basically opens up your network to anybody. So instead of doing port forwarding, generally what you do is you say these are the IPs that are allowed to connect to my router.
Yeah, you can whitelist those down my
Exactly.
Correct.
Exactly. You whitelist it, right? So that is what we do with port forwarding. So in that particular project, I was very fascinated by the fact that some person who's like living far away from me could actually connect and play the game. And there is almost negligible lag. For a game that was built in 2005, think about it, right? What is it? It's almost 20 years now. Almost gonna be in 2 years, it's gonna be 20 years now.
20 years.
20 years back, they were able to create a tech that enabled people to connect like how we do right now, right? So it is very fascinating. So that is where it all started for me. And early days of college, my first gig or my first professional freelance gig came from projects that I did just for fun, right? So what happened was my family member of mine, he was working in labs. So during that time, I was like in the final years of my college. He was working in the blood testing lab. So they take a sample of your blood, they identify what is your blood group. So what I did was I was learning machine learning. Back then, AI could only do certain tasks. So if you are able to do it, you can do it faster and better. That is the state of AI back then when I was in college, right? Machine learning back then. So I was just learning about computer vision. There was this guy who authored OpenCV, that is like a library that is using Python to do all this computer vision stuff, all this stuff. So what I wanted to do was I spoke to my cousin. So he was working there. He said, we take samples of all of these samples, we add to some solution, there is some pattern that is found. With the pattern, we determine what is your blood group. I said, you're going to do the same repeated process for everybody. Then we can use computer vision to say, this is a pattern. If you see this pattern, then we can say with this combination, this is the blood group. Right. Correct. So you basically eliminate number one, manual errors. Number two, somebody to actually sit in there, wait until the results are out and do that. It would be asking pattern emergence, right? So that was the idea. That is what I built. And what happened was there was this company who was back then working with robotics. What they wanted to do was they wanted to identify the parking lot license plates. So they saw this particular project in my GitHub. They approached me and then they said that this is what we are trying to do. Since you have some hands out of this, can you help us out with this? So that is where it all started. So do stuff that you like, because more than the result, I would say fall in love with the journey. That is way more important because the output might be stuff that you expected, or it might be a failure, right? So at that point, you are basically tossing the coin and saying, I'm either going to be happy or not happy if you just rely on the success of the project. Rather, if you had just loved the way that you built it, the challenges, the small, think of it like solving puzzles, jigsaw puzzles that you solve, right? You're happy just picking out a particular part and then putting in there. In our childhood, you'd be happy to do that, right?
Correct, yeah.
So think of your projects like that. You have a smaller problem, I'm solving it and I'm happy with it, the way that I solved it. Because what you're doing is you're proving to yourself that you're somebody who's capable of solving complex challenges, right? So to all the college students, what I would say is pick out interesting problems that you see. It might be a very difficult problem that is not solved. Okay, pick it up, and then break the problem into very, very smaller parts. Some part of the problem might be solved. Solve it again. There is nothing wrong in doing that, right? Like for example, let us say you want to build a attendance system, right, for your college. Do it. There is nothing wrong with it. It's a very innovative thing to do it, right? Even though there are hundreds of people who have already built it, you're still putting in your own effort into it. And at the end of the day, your result is a journey that you have taken to build it. It is your product at the end of the day. You have proved to yourselves and others that you are actually capable of building something worthwhile, right? That is the joy lies over there.
It also gives you more confidence to more such things, right? Yes.
Exactly. That you also showcase that to people who are potentially recruiters, right? You say, hey, you know what? This is the problem set. I boiled it down to this, and then I built a specific solution to this problem. It's way more interesting for recruiters to see this than boilerplate things like to-do list,
Correct.
all that is very boilerplate, like blog. All of that is generally boilerplate. Go for niche problems that nobody would have even thought of as problem, right? Like
Correct.
one interesting problem while I was recruiting that I saw was a person has built a recommend. So he does not like the way that Netflix recommends movies for him. So he installs the IMDb database. He does a random. He randomly selects based on a genre and he watches that. That is still pretty interesting because you're still using it, right? And you
Exactly.
go through certain thought process to do it, right? So that is a kind of interesting aspects that it brings for all of us. So here is what I would say. Second year, third year are your prime time. When you're a college student, right? Second year, third year is like your prime time because this is when, of course, there will be, your you will definitely have your college thing going on, right? But also you will have a lot of free time to actually do stuff that you like. Because in the fourth year, you have to start preparing for placement, all that pressure, all that will start coming in. But your second and third year, you have no pressure. Work on it, anything and everything you like. There is nothing wrong. I have so if you want internships, you want to solve interesting problems, reach out to me. I do have connections with a couple of people, a couple of startups people, a couple of people who are just contributing to open source. That is also good. Try to contribute to open source. That is another tip that I would definitely give to a fresher. The reason why is because getting your PR approved through open source will give you a lot of insight into how a bigger company would handle problems, right? And also, you are a recruiter, you are saying, I have already worked on this, and a ton of people are using the product that I worked on. So I kind of understand what needs to be done.
And also it shows the recruiter that you are able to individually go to a larger database, large code base, and understand the functions, all the pages that they have done, and you are able to resolve the issue, find where it is located, and all those things, right?
Exactly. Super, very well put. So it really shows the recruiter that you're somebody who has experience. Even though you're a fresher, you have had experience working with the big code base, working with a set of people, understanding what is a code review, how it's done, maintaining a certain coding best practices and all that. Right? So generally, there is something called Hacktober. During the October time, you have something called Hacktober.
Oktoberfest, I think.
Exactly.
Correct.
But so basically, during that time, what happens is you contribute to an approved open source project. You get GitHub generally sends you T-shirts, stickers, and all that goodies. So it'll be really good to put it on your resume, as well as you will have some real-time experience on how this works, right? And one another tip: network with people. Go to conventions like Google Dev Fest, any fest that is happening with respect to tech. Go to it. The reason why I'm telling you this is because when you go to all of these conventions, you'll meet a lot of people who are currently either working on open source or have previously experienced open source development, right? They'll guide you in the right place or how you need to navigate this open source space, right? And then also there are also cohorts now coming up who are like doing open source. There are YouTubers who are doing open source, so which is one good. But definitely open up yourselves to open source. It is really good, and it really puts a good light in your resume as an institute.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Super.
That's good.
So,
That's great.
so what I would say is, during your second and third year, you have ton of time. Work on projects that you really like. Uh, Work on interesting projects. I will also share a couple of projects that I find interesting. Probably you can clone it out, or you can build an extension towards it and stuff like that. And during your final year, start focusing on DSA. Like sit down, understand patterns, because in DSA that is more important. There are your question will never be the same when you go inside the interview, right? You would very rarely when you see a question that is asked outside, right? That you practice. So understand what is the underlying pattern or how you solve it, right? It could be backtracking, it could be sorting. Do I need to use a hash map? These patterns are very, very important when doing DSA, right? So try to learn this pattern. There is something called blind 75. All right. So I probably share a Notion page in class, like all of these recommendations, books, newsletters, preparing for DSA, all that. I'll probably share it. You can probably share it with.
Definitely. Yeah. I'll also put it down in the description. No issues.
Yeah. So from there on, you can pick out all the good resources that I've used in the past, books that I recommend, all that, right? So generally, what I did was I used blind 75. So that is a collection of 75 questions created by a staff engineer who was working at Facebook. So he basically said these are the 75 patterns that you generally see. Right? So you understand these 75 patterns, you will generally clear 90% of your interviews, technically speaking. Right?
Okay.
So try it out, and there are also good books like cracking the coding interview. We'll talk about all these recommendations a little later on, and I'm about to give you all these resources. But generally, cracking the coding interview is a really good book. And then there is a data structures book that is a standalone book that is there as well. So all of these are pretty good books if you're into books. But most important is basically doing it every day. Being consistent is the most important thing. So I would say definitely a combination of both is necessary for college students. DSA alone is not enough. Projects alone is not enough. If you are aiming for big tech, both of this is required. If you are aiming for startups or smaller spaces, or you're going into a particular niche, let us say cybersecurity, let us say no code, AI. So no code, I have an opinion, plus a biased opinion, as well. I'm not going to talk about it here. But generally, all of these niches, generally there is a very small market for it, and make sure that you have identified people who you can reach out to in those spaces and go for it, right? So that is basically the idea. So I definitely
a mixture of
good mix.
A mixture of both. Yes, correct. Okay.